Order all your half-shell favorites for takeout or delivery. Visit www.halfshelloysterhouse.com to browse the familiar menu and place your delivery or takeout order in minutes. Same menu prices, just a $5 flat delivery fee every time at Half Shell Oyster House, located at 115 Laurel Park Cove, Suite 105, Flowood, Mississippi, 39232, or you can give us a call at 769-257-7586. And oh yeah, tell them Sonya sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonya, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome Associate Commissioner of Communications and Senior Woman Administrator at SIAC, Tyler A. Williams. Hi, Tyler. How are you today?
Hey, Sonya. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. And also sitting in with me is inside the HBCU Sports Lab's very own Charles Bishop. Charles, what's up? How you doing? Welcome.
How you doing, Sonya? Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. That's great. So Tyler, I'm gonna just get into it. And one of the very first questions I always ask my guests, because I'm always curious in how you started in sports. How did your love for sports begin?
Yeah, so just how I got started in sports, a little about myself. I'm actually the youngest of 7. Right. So
Wow.
I actually have a brother that's very close in age to me. He's about 8 years older than I am. So we went to the same middle school, had a chance to grow up watching him play basketball. So when I got up to some age, I chose to go ahead and follow in his footsteps. So I had a chance to cheer for the basketball team. I had a chance to try basketball myself. And then I also had a chance to play volleyball. So from there, I didn't necessarily take sports as serious, probably until about 16 or 17 years old when I decided to play club volleyball. And it was there that, my love for sports really blossomed and brought me to where I am today.
That is awesome. So you're the youngest of 7. I'm the youngest of 3, and my brother, who's the oldest, he's 8 years older than me. So that's wow, 7. How was that for you being in you had a lot of siblings? How many sisters and how many brothers?
Yeah, so I only have one sister.
Are you serious?
Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I grew up in a house full of guys. A lot of them played sports in different capacities. My sister actually had a chance to cheer when she was in high school. My mom cheered and played basketball. So sports is
around you.
It is definitely around me. I would like to say that I'm the one that took it the furthest outside of all of my family members, because I decided to make a career out of it.
That's awesome.
Well, Tyler, let me ask this quick question. I mean, what was that dynamic like in terms of growing up with so many brothers? Was competition fierce in the house?
I would definitely say I lived in competition. I remember very vividly, just memories of my brother like body slamming me on the bed.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a really wild household, but I really enjoyed, having that real rock or protector.
Yeah.
My father was there as well, but my brothers really stepped in and made sure that, I was prepared for life, that I had everything that I need and the confidence that I needed to really take this space.
Sure.
It's awesome. So, Tyler, you mentioned, you took it further than your siblings. And, a lot of sports management students want to know, what does an associate commissioner of communications do?
Yes. So I get a lot of questions about, my role and really what that really means. Essentially at the conference level, sport communication is all about sports information. So everything from managing the website to social media to statistics, everything behind the scenes, that falls under my realm. So fortunately, within this space, I've had a chance to add additional responsibilities to my role. So I also oversee a lot of the championships that we put on. and just being an advocate for the woman in this space as well, in that senior woman administrator designation that I have. So in that regards, I don't know if it's necessarily like one specific path into sports communication. Because just a little bit about my story and my background. So I went to Clark Atlanta for all 4 years, was a women's volleyball student athlete there. And while I was on campus, I had a chance to major in mass media arts. So my background is really within that communications, writing, really where, I found my passion. So during that time, I was on campus. I had a chance to get involved in an on-campus organization called SIAC, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So essentially in that space, what I was able to do was serve as an advocate for the student athletes on campus to a lot of the senior administrators. So that's really where those connections really started with the athletic directors and the sports information directors. So from there, we had an annual meeting every year with our SAC group and our conference office. So from there, at that time, they were actually in the process of trying to develop an app for the conference office. So during that time, I was able to offer some advice, some ideas on just, how to better the app. And from there, it blossomed into an internship. So our compliance director at that time, Kelly Elliott, she offered me the internship. I was able to come in unpaid, but I did, just be able to get that experience in that space at the conference office level, which I think is, invaluable. A lot of people really don't get that opportunity. So I think that's just a little bit about like how I entered the space and how I found my way to sport communications. Because if you asked me at 18 years old, I thought that I wanted to be a news anchor, so that's totally different than what I'm doing now. But it's in the same realm about, writing and producing and making sure that everything on the media side of sports looks good.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, go ahead, Charles.
No, let me follow up on that, Tyler, because that's very interesting. You mentioned you're a product of Clark. And you talk about this conference, the SIAC, rich tradition. I mean, when you talk about blue bloods in terms of Clark, Tuskegee, Morehouse, and literally this conference has tentacles to the beginning of HBCU athletics. What was it like coming up in that sort of environment playing volleyball at Clark?
Yeah, honestly, I think I was extremely blessed and I really stumbled onto the opportunity. I did not know coming out of high school, just the amount of rich history and the legacy that really does live and breathe on these campuses. So being able to, walk into that, even the volleyball program at Clark is extremely historical in that piece.
Exactly.
So just being able to, continue history. A lot of people may not know when I was on campus my senior year, we made history by winning the Eastern Division in 2018 or 2017 during that year. But even just looking at the conference as a whole, Clark, Tuskegee, Morehouse, Fort Valley State, Albany State, Lemoyne on, I think we have some really rich in history and traditional schools that, like you said, really does touch the legacy of HBCU athletics. So of course we know about, the Clark Atlanta rivalry, the Morehouse Tuskegee game, and those are really amazing events that are put on a daily basis that really showcases a lot of the traditions. But I think a lot of history gets lost with the SIAC. A lot of people don't think about like the Alice Coachman that has come from Albany State University. That was the first woman gold medalist ever.
Yes.
Or even, some recently like the Lonnie Bartleys of Fort Valley State, who is the most winningest basketball coach in HBCU women's basketball. So I think, even showcasing that history, I think that's one thing that I've learned from being a student athlete turned administrator, just how broad, how wide and far spread HBCU athletics really was during that time. And for me to be able to, have this, really historic brand in my hands, I think, it's a phenomenal opportunity that I don't take for granted at all.
Yes, tremendous history.
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm gonna go back a little bit because you said your major was mass media arts.
Correct.
Is that the same as mass communications or is there a difference? I've
So
never heard of mass media arts before.
yeah, so it's really unique to Clark Atlanta. And that was one thing I was really racking my brain about,
Okay.
because I really wanted to focus in journalism specifically. So mass media arts was kind of the, second to that, because essentially
Okay.
what I learned at Clark was the mass media arts. So we learned television, we learned radio, we learned all different aspects of, media instead of focusing on just writing or just television or, just certain newspapers. So that was the one thing that I would definitely say that really sets Clark's mass media arts department apart from a lot of different other departments that you might find.
Okay, awesome. I just had to, I was very curious. Okay. So, Tyler, can you provide the listeners the date of the media day and all that goes in a production of that magnitude, where not only are the conference football teams are on display, but also the conference itself is on display?
Yeah, so I am happy to share, and we will be putting out something soon as well. So our football media day is actually planned for July the 12th this year. So we have a lot of special events planned for this year's media day. Of course, we are under new leadership this year, so I'm super excited about that. Just revamping things, make things new, make things, look good on behalf of the conference. Because like you said, not only are we showcasing our football student athletes, which is essential to HBCU college athletics, but our entire conference gets a chance to showcase, what we're doing in regards to developments and making the conference better and making sure that we're offering a lot of different opportunities for student athletes to grow and develop. So I guess just kind of walking through what it takes to really kind of plan an event like that. So usually it happens a few months in advance. I would do everything from reaching out to the host site, which in this case, this year, it will be hosted again at the College Football Hall of Fame. So they've been a pleasure to work with, super excited to bring it back there and just showcase a lot of the HBCU athletics. But from there, after we pick the site, I really work really closely with the venue for like audio, video, making sure that everything is in place, the layout of the actual venue, how we want it done. I would work with the venue to make that happen. And from there, I will really work with a lot of our SIDs to make sure that their media kits are put together. So that way we're able to distribute that to our media members, and also working with the team. So the coaches and the student athletes to make sure that they have, the time, the attire, all of the essential information that they would need so that they can plan to be there on time as well. So that's a little like, I guess, broad overview on, what it really takes to plan our media day.
Hands full. Hands are full. Definitely. Tyler, let me ask this question.
That's summertime.
Listen, we have time.
Right.
Exactly.
Let me ask this question. SIAC, very unique conference, especially when you take a look at 16 schools that are spread over a wide swath of the South, but it also goes north to Kentucky and Ohio as well. And I'm curious, with a conference that has such a large geographic footprint, what are some of the sort of unique challenges that presents?
Yeah, so I think our conference is extremely unique in regards to our footprint. Like you said, it really stretches really far and really wide. So we actually touch 7 different states throughout the South. So, that's something that's really unique to our brand. But I think also just serving in this capacity, it's really allowed me to enjoy the work of getting to know people from different parts of the nation, right? So we do have people from Kentucky and Ohio and South Carolina and Florida that might be different from where I'm from in Georgia, right? So, just being able to learn different people and their working styles and how our conference, and me specifically, I'm able to help, create a better student athlete experience or create a more memorable student athlete experience. But that's the thing. I think some unique experiences or unique challenges in that space is really, I think, one, just getting people together, right? Because looking over 7 states, that obviously encompasses a few different time zones. So I think, the unique challenges is really trying to get everyone together in one time at one place given everybody's schedules and, you know, the responsibilities that everybody has. But I also think another unique thing is just making sure that we're able to be abreast on, you know, recent state legislations, because we do span over 7 different states. And I think
Sure.
one thing that really made itself pronounced was really during COVID, right? We were planning the return to play. And with that, we had to consider all 7 different states when we were implementing a lot of conference guidelines. So that's one thing that a lot of people may not, you know, think about when looking at, you know, overseeing 15 different schools over 7 different states. You know, it can be a lot of moving parts, but I definitely say that our conference is unique and historical, and just we really pride ourselves in developing the entire student athlete, whether that's a student athlete in Kentucky, a student athlete in Georgia, you know, Florida, or anywhere in between. I think that's definitely one thing about our conference that I pride ourselves in.
Sure. September 1st, 2022. Dr. Anthony Holloman, he took over for Commissioner Greg Moore. Curious in terms of what has Dr. Holloman brought to this conference in terms of more exposure in the branding element that you take a look at with regards to commissioners working with presidents within the conference.
Yeah, so of course we definitely had that leadership change back in September. But fortunately, prior to his arrival, I actually had a chance to work with Commissioner Holloman. When we brought men's volleyball into the conference, he was actually extremely integral in bringing men's volleyball to Fort Valley State University specifically. So now with him serving in this capacity, I would definitely say, you know, his ability to understand the presidents and also a lot of the administrators on campus is something that is unique to his skill set that I think the conference office really needed in that moment. But also just his involvement with a lot of different city organizations as well. You know, bring different championships to different cities, make sure that cities, you know, experience the SIAC and what we have to offer. I would definitely say those are 2 really unique skill sets that Commissioner Holloman has brought to the conference that I believe has enhanced us all the way around.
No doubt.
That's awesome.
Follow up, and this is I guess sort of a 2-part to the question, because when we take a look at it, especially we're in a different environment, and when we're talking about college athletics nowadays, where we're talking about the transfer portal, or even now, you mentioned it, different states with different guidelines with regards to sports betting. But I'm curious, as an administrator, former athlete on a Division II level, are there huge differences between what we see at Division I level versus college athletics at the Division II level?
And that's a really great question. And I've been fortunate enough to have a chance to interact with some of my Division I colleagues. And I think within college sports, a lot of colleges face similar financial situations overall. So I think the biggest difference that I've learned between Division I and Division II is 1 being the size of the university, and 2 being the amount of focus that they decide to put on athletics. So of course at Division I institutions, they're larger campuses, there are more students, and it's a larger focus on athletics. Whereas Division II is smaller campuses, so they're more intimate, there's less students. The athletics is important, but it's really, I would say, about developing the whole person. So as an athlete, developing the student, developing the person as a good citizen of their community. I think those are really huge tenets when we're talking about Division II. And I think as a former student athlete, from that perspective, I can say that I've had friends play at the Division I level, and a lot of their time was really focused on sports. Whereas the Division II level, you know, I had the chance to play the sport that I love while also getting an internship, you know, joining a sorority, volunteering within my community. I think those are really things that helped me to develop as a full person, even after, you know, my time playing volleyball was done. So I like to say, like, at Division II, the saying is make it yours. And I definitely say that, you know, we embody that, because Division II is truly what you make it as an athlete, as a student, as an administrator. So I think that's one personal thing that I value about Division II sports.
I love it.
Yeah, make it even more personal here. And I'm going to ask you to kind of put your doctoral hat on here for a second. I read that in your bio, working on your doctorate. I am as well here at Texas Southern University. as well as teaching at Texas Southern University. But a question I posed to my students was, can HBCUs, can they continue to sustain themselves in terms of the arms race that we see at the Division I level? Is it more advantageous for HBCUs to operate at the Division II level?
That's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I think honestly, just understanding kind of the financial situation of our schools and kind of how a lot of the finances work within college athletics. Honestly, the spending in college athletics have gotten extremely ridiculous. I read an article a while back just about an athletic department that shall not be named, but they had a chance to this beautiful opportunity to create a lazy river pool for their student athletes. So, in that regard, what we're trying to do really pales in comparison to that. And it's tough because a lot of the student athletes now choose the university based on what they see, and that's the really tough part. So I would definitely say, COVID didn't really help that either.
Sure.
Just being able to, shut things down. And now you're having this group of student athletes that didn't necessarily understand, life before NIL or life, as a regular student athlete that didn't get paid, and the kind of grind that really went into that. But I would say definitely one thing about it is just understanding the private funding behind a lot of this stuff within the arms race. So I think HBCU specifically, before we even start talking about the arms race, we have to get a lot of what we're doing in-house together, right? So we have to make sure that the people in place at these institutions care about the brand, that they're able to effectively communicate, the unique value that each institution has. Because a lot of times HBCUs are grouped into one, whereas when you really get onto these campuses, it's a different culture, it's different dynamics at play at these different institutions. So one, I would say, it takes the right person to be in place to be able to communicate that. And then on campus, we have to make sure that our stuff is tight, making sure that our team's branding is consistent, making sure that our coaches have, the information that they need in order to communicate the uniqueness of the university to prospective student athletes or donors. But I think we're past that time in the HBCU space where it's all about homecoming or it's all about Greek step show, which I would definitely say those are amazing facets of our culture within the HBCU space. But I think, the challenge of HBCUs today is what more are we doing? What are we doing with our student athletes to, make them better citizens, make them, productive people out in their communities. I think, understanding and being able to communicate that unique aspect to the student athletes or prospective student athletes now is going to be the difference for HBCUs. And at the pace we're going, honestly, I think it's going to be hard for any small schools to really keep up with the arms race, because I don't know anybody that, just has $2 million or $3 million set aside just to create a pool, or update it just to kind of keep pace with everything that's going on. So that's kind of my thought process on the arms race and, how HBCUs can really remain a viable option in that space, because I definitely saw the huge influx of Black student athletes that chose to go to HBCUs during the COVID, during the summer protests of 2020, and it's going to take more of that. It's going to take more of our African American student athletes to choose HBCUs, but it's also on our HBCUs to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we're viable options for these student athletes.
Sure. Well, I'm going to ask for permission to cite you right there because that was pitch perfect.
I mean, it was perfect.
I appreciate it because I see it as a two-way street, right? Like, it's not just on the institution and it's not just on the kids. Everybody really has to come about. We have to adapt as a people, as HBCUs, to better service the people that we're supposed to be servicing on a daily basis. So,
no doubt. Yeah.
And one more question before we let you go. So you mentioned the NIL deal. What are your thoughts on the NIL deal, and how much has it just impacted your student athletes at the university? SIAC, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that I haven't had much interaction with a lot of NIL deals.
Okay.
I've heard of a few of our student athletes that have enacted that and gotten involved in it. Personally, I think it's a great opportunity for these student athletes just to be able to, capitalize on the opportunities that's presented. But I also think it comes with a lot of responsibility as well. Because I was that student athlete, I understand what it means to, have a competitor on the same playing field as you that might be making, $100,000 a year, whereas I might be making 15. And it's all about negotiation. So I definitely think it's a lot of more conversation that's needed around the NIL space and, how a lot of our student athletes can, benefit from this opportunity, because that's what I think it is. It's an opportunity now that college sports are continuing to evolve, continuing to adjust to the athletes that are in this space now. I think, just being able to be malleable in that space is important.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today. However, before I let you go, I play a little game called You Can Get With This or You Can Get With That. And what it is a way for the listeners and myself and Charles to get to know the guests better. I'll ask you a few questions and you choose the one that best fits you. No answer is wrong. Okay? Would you rather be a little late or way too early? I think he's a late bird.
Personally, I think I'd rather be a little late because I don't like waiting around, just in the awkward moment. So I think I'll choose to be a little late.
Okay. Well, you laughed. I already knew.
Better late than never. Better late than never.
Better late than never.
I'm 15 to 20 minutes early, sometimes 30. It depends. Would you rather have an unlimited gift certificate to a restaurant or a clothing store?
I think the foodie in me definitely in the restaurant. I love to eat. I love to try different things. So I definitely take the restaurant gift card.
Awesome. Would you rather have your flight delayed by 8 hours or lose your luggage?
Ooh. That's a tough one.
That is a very tough one because I love to travel. I'd rather have the flight delayed for 8 hours because I can't foresee myself landing somewhere with no
luggage.
That's and a lot of airlines are so, I love going through Houston lobby. That's one of my favorites, and Papados. So, you can eat, chill out, relax. That's,
I know well.
Yes. Would you rather have your first child when you're 18 or 40?
Ooh, I am definitely gonna go ahead and say 40, only because I don't have any kids yet. So I've seen my sister have kids at 18. I think I've learned my lesson. So I'm gonna stick with the 40.
You caught me off guard with that one. I was like,
You're so silly. Would you rather date and I know you're about to get married, congratulations. Would you rather date someone you met online or go on a blind date?
I think I'm gonna take the blind date. Online, I feel like in this day and age of catfishing, I don't trust it. So I'd rather go on a blind date and see what we're working with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You rather in hunger or hatred?
Ooh, I'd rather in hatred. I think that's a lot of the, root to a lot of the issues we have in America today. So I would vote definitely in hatred.
Because if we get that under control, then people will start feeding others. I totally agree.
Yes.
Would you rather mentally or physically never age?
Ooh, I think physically. I think mentally, I would definitely say mentally, I'm at a good space. I know I can still grow, but I think you only have a great body at one point in time, and I just keep that.
So really, you're gonna be like a fox, but to my home.
Yeah.
The forgetful fox.
No, I totally agree.
It's the athlete in me. It's the athlete in me.
I know.
Understood.
So y'all have great bodies. Would you rather go without TV or junk food for the rest of your life?
I think I could go without TV.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sucker for some ice cream, chocolate ice cream to be specific. So junk food is definitely my,
I'm a little torn on that one because, like he just said, I love certain shows. I love sports, and then I'm like, but I love to when I travel. I like to eat Doritos. And
exactly.
so that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
That's a tough one.
The junk food.
Very tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Would you rather be locked in an amusement park or a library?
I think I'd choose a library. My younger self was really a bookie, and I guess still now that I'm in the PhD program, but I really enjoy a good book. So,
What's one of your favorite books?
oh, that's a hard one because I haven't been able to choose, like, pick up a lot of books
Wow.
recently.
Yeah.
But I think the best book that I've read was, and the name is escaping me. It was actually a professor at Clark Atlanta. He wrote the book, and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm gonna send you the information. But it was a really good book. The last part of it was peace, but I'm gonna send you that information so I can get it right.
Awesome. Last one. Would you rather spend the day with your favorite athlete or your favorite movie star?
Ooh, I'm gonna choose athlete only because I feel like their lives are a lot more fun. If I'm a movie star, I'm good on being on set all day.
So who would that be?
I think personally, I would love to spend a day with Serena Williams.
Oh,
Nice. I think that would be really fun.
Yes, I agree. Either that or Jamel Hill. I think her or Kari.
Yeah. Oh my
I
God.
think they have some really exciting lives that I like to see.
Yes.
very much so. Yeah.
Michael Jordan for me, of course, and Jamel Hill would be so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put mine in for Brian Gumbel. Brian
Oh
Gumbel.
yeah,
That's a good one.
I like that. Even though she wasn't really an athlete, but she was a star. She was,
No doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely Jane Kennedy. Well, Tyler, as always, like I said, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming. Could you please tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media?
Yes. So all the listeners, I actually have a professional Twitter out there, Williams_Wright, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Tyler Williams, M.S. So I look forward to connecting with you all. Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you so much, Charles, for having me. I have enjoyed it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And Charles,
Thank you.
Charles, tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media as well, and also when your show comes on.
Yeah, you can follow me on Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. as well as you can see my name on all social media outlets via Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Charles.Bishop, blah, 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 social media.
Okay. All right. And guys, you can follow me on Facebook at She Say Sports. On Instagram, She Say Sports 23. Twitter, She Say 23. And please subscribe to our YouTube page. Well, guys, that's our show for today. Until next time, this is She Say Sports.